let me transition to asking you a bit about Ukraine. We've heard that Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to meet with President Donald Trump in Alaska later this week. What would you hope is achieved through that meeting? Are you pleased to see a meeting occur between the two leaders here in America?
I think it's important that America look at this in a context of historical value. Back in the 80s, in 1980, President Reagan met with uh, the president of Russia. And in those conversations, Gorbachev, there were conversations of listening to each other about their needs and desires, the things that they wanted. And as you recall, Gorbachev listened to President Reagan, and President Reagan politely, without twisting or bending a rod, gave his conversation to Mr. Gorbachev. Within a matter of years, the wall fell. There was a combination of activity. There was a messaging that came from President Reagan that the world heard. I think the world will hear this conversation. And when Russia, because of the sheer brutality of Russia attacking what was their former people in Ukraine, civilians, which is entirely against the rules of norm for civility. When you attack, it's okay. I don't like it, but you can attack a military position, people who are a part of fighting, but not civilians. And I think the president will be able to score this just as President Reagan did. There's a model out there, right, wrong, good, bad. And these are two distinctly different ways to look at a greatness of a nation. And I think that the greatness resides, if he uses it properly, President Donald Trump for
What do
peace.
what do you feel can actually be accomplished, during this meeting? Do you feel as though the war can actually end just through this meeting?
The meeting has very important ramifications. As you will remember, President Trump wants to deal with President Putin on a man-to-man basis, country-to-country basis, where we respect Russia. They are a pitiful country in terms of the brutality and how they operate. But the president has chosen to take a high road. I would not be capable of that. I would not be capable. I would tell Mr. Putin from the very beginning that their conversation, their actions, and the way they do their business is against civilization. But the president is trying to resolve the matter. And I think resolving the matter is more important than when who's for what. The president, I hope, will not attempt to give away any sovereignty that the Ukrainians have to give to the Russians to end the war. I think they should end the war because America will make sure that things become more difficult for the Russians if they continue what they're doing. That's what I would expect that would happen. We would stick to our guns just as President Reagan did.
Let me ask you to go off of a statement you just said. You feel it's, if I heard you correctly, you said it's more important to end the conflict than to go back and forth between individual ideals. What do you mean by that? Elaborate on that.
Well, what I'm talking about is the president of the United States, Donald Trump, is trying to negotiate the end of the war. And he's trying to get the Russians to back away. But he has indicated that that may mean giving up huge parts of eastern Ukraine and giving them, which he is not the president of Ukraine. Ukraine would have to want to give that up. And I think that world opinion will be on Donald Trump's side if he sticks to his guns, just like it was with Ronald Reagan, that the world will see the two distinct differences, and people who will attack civilian targets repeatedly and kill and destroy as they have done. I have trouble negotiating giving them anything just to end the war. So I'm more for us sticking to our guns, being with Ukraine, and telling the Russians that things will get far worse. As you know, the Ukrainians are virtually going downtown Moscow, and that is a terrible thing. But if that's what will take, if fight and might win the war, then that's what I'm for.
Would you like to see Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky join this meeting with President Trump and President Putin?
Well, of course I would, and to say that he would not be consulted would be a mistake, and he will be consulted. But I think it's not two people divvying up of another country, and I find that not in America's best interest nor the world.